started. He started since he was basically a freshman coming out of high school from obviously California, and that is Nate Frazier. He ended up getting injured, and he ended up obviously limping off the field. For the Georgia Bulldogs. So that is the first major story out of G Day, essentially for the Bulldogs. Okay, so him getting injured. What's next for them? They do have some good depth, obviously, at this position. But an immediate observation is obviously him going down and what will obviously be next. For him and what he's going to be able to bring to the table. Now, in terms of observations, obviously, shots are Ryan Nabluzi and obviously Harrison Reno, who covers the team pretty well. But Dante Dowdell is going to be obviously a major one for them out of the backfield. 6'2", 225, has quick size translated to the field as he ripped off a 27-yard run on the first carry down in the red and black, right? So, again, we're looking for the depth, right? We know about the White Powell's there. We obviously know Nate Frazier's there, right? We know they lost some people, but Dante Dowdell looks like he's going to be the guy that fits right in like a glove and is going to help the Georgia Bulldogs in terms of what they want to be this season, what they're trying to accomplish. And just kind of being a more, I don't want to say physical unit because Georgia's always physical, but being a team that can run the ball consistently well. I feel like there's been games that they've dominated on the run and other games where they've kind of struggled a little bit. So I think that's what you're seeing from obviously Georgia and what they want to accomplish. So Dante Dardell is one of the big ones. 6 carries on 61 yards, had an outstanding performance, obviously, in the spring game. And he is going to obviously be one to watch. Okay. Also in the screen observation, they talk about Jazeer Jackson. Remember, he was a center/power forward playing at OTE. He converted and ended up stopped playing basketball and converted into obviously an offensive lineman. 6'10", still kind of a project for Georgia, but obviously one you can deny is obviously his size, his talent, and what he's able to obviously do. On the back end, right now for them. What's very interesting is from this report is Caden Prothwell. Caden Prothwell is a guy coming out of high school. I think he was AJC Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. Won a whole bunch of accolades, man, several state championships. He pretty much operated out of the slot, according to this report. He had 5 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown, right? That's pretty interesting if you're Caden Prothwell. Because remember, tight end position was really like down with injuries last year, right? You lose Ethan Barbour, right? They lost several people, but they had good depth because you had Oscar Delp obviously in there, and obviously lost him Lucky. So you had a lot of depth at the position. But the freshman they have at this position coming in, obviously Elias Williams was a freshman last year. You bring him to the fold. Barbour is kind of coming off an injury. And then Caden Proto is a superstar, 5-star tight end coming in. Played pretty well against the Georgia defense. So he's going to be a guy that's continue to raise and bring a name around Georgia, and obviously his name, and he's going to be a guy to continue to watch moving forward. But 5 catches, 46 yards, outstanding performance for him. And obviously you guys can see it right here from the official Georgia account. I will share the tab once it loads. Here it is right here. You can see him scoring, nice little play here out quick. But what I love about this play, and as we break it down, right, I will pause it because I don't want to get copyrighted. But you see the throw. So obviously this is very good coverage right here from the cornerback. But what is happening here? He's going to throw the back shoulder, right? So watch this quarterback go, throw the back shoulder play, right? And look where he places the ball. Great placement, but it allows Caden Prothwell, right, to be able to adjust to the football and make a play on the ball, right? So he only puts it where he can get it. He can turn his body around and go up and go get it. And that's exactly what he does right there, man. Heck of a catch. Great coverage. That's just a ball that was put into the right spot on the back shoulder fade against the cornerback. And you see the athleticism, and you see what Caden Prothwell can bring to the table and why he was so coveted coming out of high school. And he already has that stature and frame because remember, in high school, he was 6'6", 6'7". You already see it right now on the first play. So he's going to be one they continue, I think, to talk about and one they're going to obviously continue to feature, I think, in this Georgia offense moving forward. Also, they said young edges Gabe Harris was unavailable to play today, but Chase Lennon was getting some reps with the first team defense. And remember, Chase Lennon was a former Rutgers commit, as we talked about, guys, with the Georgia Bulldogs. And, he could have easily went into the portal, right? He didn't play a lot last season. He could have been like, yo, I'm going to go hit the portal. I'm going to see what else is out there for me. But he's staying down with Georgia. And like I said, Rusty Mazel reported that he was making a lot of plays, doing his thing. And now we see him get reps with the first team defense. Says a lot, man. Chase Lennon might be that guy because they want to create more pressure on the quarterback, right? It was there in bits and spurts with Quintavious Johnson obviously being there and some of the defensive linemen. But Georgia, when they've been a great team, not saying they weren't great last year, they won the SEC, but when they've been a team that has won championships, the defensive line has been elite and potent. And Chase Lennon is starting to kind of make that name for himself, man. So that is great. Had one nice rush get on the inside of right tackle Juan Gaston and the pressure to Ryan Puglisi. Meanwhile, true freshman Kamari Brooks had his moments beating Akini Agboko off the edge. So obviously that's great to see. And here is one more time via the Georgia Bulldogs account, as you guys can see, him creating that pressure off the edge. I'll just drop it in the bucket type of a play. Never mind. That was my bad, y'all. I thought that was. They said Chase Linton on this one. I guess he drew that initial pressure. Let's see what we see here. Let me see. Yeah, okay, right there. Yep, I see it. So quarterback kind of got sped up. Right there, Chase Linton is making the play, as you guys can obviously see. So obviously, great job there by him. AJ Crua also was another one. He recorded a sack with the black team defense, as y'all can see. Hold on, I have my share screen happen. Let me show this for you guys. Okay, so obviously, oh man, sorry y'all. AJ Crua was one that also stood out. And then Amaris Williams, non-contact ACL injury. Obviously, he's done for the rest of the season. But now we can see Linton emerging, and he's probably going to be one of those guys on the outside edge. We should see what Zayden Walker is able to do as well, and several other players that was in that recruiting cycle a year ago for, obviously, the Georgia Bulldogs, right? So that's gonna pretty much do it. Obviously, Ellis Robinson, DeMelo Jones are expected to be the starting corners. They've been kind of up and down in the spring, from what I've heard. Right, made some plays. They've had some plays where they kind of won it back. So they still figuring that part out. But they both should obviously be the starting guys for them. Now, one element I do want to talk about when it comes to Georgia breaking down the spring game is I've heard a lot about this quarterback battle. Right, not for obviously Gunnar Stockton. So I'm buffering a little bit. Okay, there we go. Not a lot, not so much so for Gunnar Stockton, but more so for the backup QB role, right? Which obviously, this is Ryan Montgomery, this is Ryan Puglisi, and I'm hearing a lot about Hezekiah Malender, who has played very well. But here's what has been said per quote: "I think at Georgia we'll always have competition, and I don't think that'll ever going to change." Stockton said on Saturday after G Day, and I like the way just because I mean, it makes everybody better. But definitely taking these reps at G Day and the scrimmages we do, it prepares you more, right? While Ryan Puglisi was number 2 quarterback last season, the competition to retain that role is still up in the air, right? It's interesting. They all had their day. Georgia head coach Kirby Smart said. I mean, Buddha had some days that you were like, man, Buddha's playing good. Then 2 Ryans had days that they were playing well. In the end, the up and down nature resembled what played on the field on Saturday. Each quarterback had their moments, whether it was the final touchdown pass from freshman Bryson Beaver or the plethora of downfield shots from the trio of 3 scholarship signal callers. Puglisi, the oldest of the quarterback room, behind Stockton, went 8 for 19, 86 yards. Not his best performance. Also had a big time completion to Taylor and Taylor for 32 yards. Hezekiah Malender and Beaver combined for 204 yards on 18 to 28 passing, and Montgomery was 10 to 18 for 132. So what I take and peel away from that is basically, he didn't have his best performance. It sounds like 8 for 19. Got to obviously play better, and it feels like a lot of these guys are kind of like closing down. What I'm saying, that lead for him. What I'm saying. Remember, Puglisi, I believe he was the number 2 last year. So it looks like these other guys are coming in and they're giving them start competition. I do think you will probably see somebody transfer out. Hezekiah Malender came in last year, late recruit for them. They still got Coulter Jen. I think he was a walk on at the time. And then obviously Montgomery. So it's gonna be interesting to see, man. I think that's still kind of up for grabs, and I think it kind of tightened. What I'm saying, if I'm humbly honest, that position tightened, over the spring, and it's gonna be interesting to see if Puglisi can obviously keep it. If not, I definitely think you're gonna probably see 1 or 2 guys probably end up hitting the portal, out of there. But the quarterback 2 position definitely heating up, there. Also, other big takeaways. My guy Jeremy Johnson also does a fantastic job for Georgia, but he feels like there's a very deep roster of what they've been able to build. Highly talented recruiting classes. Georgia's depth is the tip of the sword toward a title contender, as he said. Said Tyree Green walked into Georgia having split time between running back and safety. He started at cornerback on Saturday and acquitted himself nicely. There's a role for him. Caden Proto is a ball catching fool. He has a role somewhere. There are about 8 players who can play on Georgia's offensive line. The backup quarterback position has also multiple options. And he said running back is 4 deep in a possible 5. You get the picture. Coming to the spring, we knew Georgia had talent. We did not know how quickly that talent would look like the talent that was older and more experienced. Georgia can play different types of games. It has roster capable of having of not having a drop off in long list of areas. That's how you play 15, 16 games and win a title. Indiana was built that way. Ohio State built similarly 2 years ago. Georgia has done it with a crock pot. Since the 2022 title team, Georgia has replenished its ranks and has a chance to bid for long haul. So what I take from that and ending on Georgia basically for the spring, QB2 position, that is still up for grabs, right? Ryan Puglisi, Montgomery, Hezekiah Malender, Coulter Jen, they've all pretty much closed that gap between Gunnar Stockton or whoever's going to back up Gunnar Stockton afterwards. And it's going to be very important because Georgia's going to want to know who's going to be their starting quarterback next year, right? Because this is it. This is Gunnar Stockton's last year. He's a redshirt senior, right? So you got to know who that's going to be. And like I said, I definitely think you will see a couple quarterbacks, one or maybe two. We'll see what happens. Transfer out after this season, 100% for Georgia, right? So that's stiffened up. A lot of the freshmen making plays. We saw Craig Dandridge made a play. Nice big time catch. Caden Proto looks like he's going to find some kind of way to get on that field and find a role next year, barring anything unforeseen. Looks like Georgia's getting a lot of pressure. Some of the young guys starting to step up now. The Chase Lintons, the AJ Cruz of the world. Elijah Griffin's obviously going to be a guy right there down there in the interior. Justin Williams will obviously be that linebacker to watch out for Georgia. The back end, I still feel like depth is going to be a key question there for Georgia. Working through obviously you got DeMello Jones, you got Ellis Robinson, you got guys, but who's going to be able to back them up? Will the other guys be ready? We've seen Tyreek Green, as Jeremy talked about, kind of working in at cornerback. And I definitely think to his point, he will have a role because the depth is not necessarily there like we've seen in years past for Georgia, right? Safety position, we know it's going to be KJ Bolden, obviously, as a guy there. Who will be opposite side of him? Who's going to obviously help him out? Be another question to watch as well. Running back is pretty deep, despite losing Nate Frazier. Dante Dowdell, performed pretty well. They got a whole bunch of guys that's waiting in the ranks. And then wide receiver, I think you feel good. Probably one of the deeper positions on the team. You look at from top to bottom, they got guys everywhere, and they got young guys that is just chopping at the bit to be able to get an opportunity and a shot, in my humble opinion. And London Roldan will probably be the player to watch for in special teams this year for Georgia in terms of returning punts, making big time plays. He would be the guy to continue to watch. But that is some of my biggest takeaways from what obviously they had to say about the Georgia G-Day spring scrimmage.